Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Albuquerque Aliens Draft to Glory franchise mode here in NHL 25. So, in last episode, we had the first round of the playoffs, and we finally won our first ever playoff series, but it was kind of, I would say, a series that is a little bit bittersweet, because obviously the win is great to see. However, I don't feel like we played necessarily our best hockey in that first round, but hopefully we could kind of like play better in the second round. We are going to be taking on Minnesota, who we took on a few years ago in the first round, but you can see in that first round we basically went up 2-0 in the series. You could see we won in overtime in game one, so a pretty close game. Then we won 4-1. So at that point I was like, okay, things are looking good for this team at this point. But then we lost two home games, and I'd say both those games weren't the best. We lose 6-4 and 4-2. Then we won 4-3 and looked like we could close out the series, but then we lose 5-0. So another bad kind of defensive game, and then we win 7-5. So a game where we allow a lot of goals, but we managed to outscore our problems. So we still have a little bit of problems in terms of keeping the puck out of our net at the moment, which is not great, but maybe we could find a way to be a better defensive team in a second round. But if we go over to, like, if you could see here, like, yeah, our player stats, I guess we'll look at. You can see, like, we've had some good players, like Bogosian, he's got 11 points through 7 games, Doig's got 9 points, Kim, etc. But you can see after, if we go down to our 4 group here, you can see at a certain point we're having some guys kind of under-simulate a little bit, like Steen, for example. He only had the 1 goal in 7 games, Capaduca only had 1 goal in 7 games. Like, I'd say our bottom 6 wasn't the best on paper. They also do be out there for a lot of goals against, which is not a great thing. And then from a defensive standpoint, you can see, like, we're getting offense still from guys like Tuzolino, which is great, but, like, plus minus isn't the best throughout the defensive core. Could use a little bit of work. And then the goaltending especially, like, Spezza rocked a 903 save percentage, and then Semenov even played a game, but he rocked an 800 save percentage, so we're kind of lucky we were able to get through those St. Louis Blues, but maybe this team will kind of start to find itself a bit better in terms of defense and more offensive consistency going forward. But still, right now, you could definitely tell that this team lacks a bit of experience, in my opinion. I'm just really hoping that we could find a way to beat Minnesota like we did, or almost did a few years ago. They actually went on to win the Stanley Cup that year that we lost to them in 7 games. So we know that we can beat them in the playoffs, but it's going to come down to if we could find our defensive game and also our offensive game a bit better than the first round, I'd say, because it was good in some games, other games it wasn't good, and we don't really have that consistency at the moment. But anyways, before we get into the second round matchup with the Minnesota Wild, let's get into your guys' comments and see what you guys have to say about last episode. And then we'll see if we're able to actually make it to the conference finals somehow this year. I don't feel like this team's a team that could win a Stanley Cup this year, but honestly, this game could completely surprise us. Our coach thought at the beginning of the season we could go to the Stanley Cup finals, so hopefully that's what we set out to do. The first comment is from Joseph D. Miller, who says, congrats on moving on. Defense is a bit of an issue, but scoring is good. And yeah, the defense is definitely a bit of an issue. It has been good that we've been able to score a lot of goals in some of our games, but it's also been a bit inconsistent, like I said a little bit ago. Like 3 goals for, that's not too bad. 4 goals for, not too bad. 4 goals for in a loss, not too bad. 2 goals for, not great. 4 goals for, not that bad. And then obviously 5 goals against with no goals for, not good. And then 5 goals against with 7 goals for, good offense, but defensive play wasn't great. So I'd say definitely a little bit inconsistent, but like I said, if we could find our consistency in this round, maybe we have a chance to being a bit more consistent in a conference finals or a Stanley Cup finals appearance. The next comment is from Michael Dose, who says, honestly, I like the low to no injuries in the draft of glories, as the injuries ruin the future seasons as you don't have depth. And it kind of does in a way. I kind of understand what you mean about it ruining like the depth a bit. Like if you don't have the depth, you have to call up random guys that are like 75 overall, and it gets a little bit problematic. I do like having injuries on once we get to being a better team, but obviously early on it doesn't really make much sense in my opinion. And the last and final comment is from Sound Otaku, says, that wasn't pretty, but at least you got the job done. The AHL team isn't in the club, or AHL club isn't in the playoffs, so you could call on some of the guys down there if necessary. So the AHL team isn't in the playoffs anymore, which is a good thing. We could call up any guys that we want to from the roster without hurting their development, which is good. There is some guys that are kind of intriguing to call up, like Hector Cashman. Maybe he gets a chance to play on like a 4th line role this season in the playoffs if we do get into a little bit of trouble. But for right now, obviously, I think keeping the roster the way it is okay. But I do think we do have a bit of weakness, especially I'd say more on this right wing side of things, because after Staubitz, it drops down to Capaduca. So yeah, maybe at some point we decide to call somebody up from the AHL, because we do have like some guys down there that could probably give us a bit better defensive results, I would assume. But obviously, We're probably going to have to wait till next season in order to get some of these guys in, but maybe we get Dean Perron back up here again. Who knows? He hasn't been up here in a while, but maybe he's the type of guy that could take over that fourth line spot and make us better defensively. Okay, so with that said, I think, like I said, we're going to keep the team the same as it was at the end of the last round, but obviously if we get into defensive troubles again, we will make some adjustments. Let's first take a look at what Minnesota looks like again, just because I honestly forget. It's been a couple days since I recorded the last episode, so I just want to double check that I remember what they look like. So, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, McKenna, Height, Kaprizov, Rossi, Ginla, Boldy. That's a nasty top six. The bottom six isn't definitely as strong as they were when we last played them, but it's still good with like having Braden Yeager as a third line center. Like, they definitely still have some depth. Also on the right wing side with Knack. But Philman is definitely a little bit weak for that third line. But they definitely still have good depth on offense. Defensively, they also are somewhat okay. Definitely not as strong defensively, I would say, as some other teams we've played before. But they are still good. They do have a great goaltender, though, of course, in Wallstead. And then this is their depth, which is not the best depth options. So, should be an interesting series. Hopefully, we can knock them out. Like I said, we have home ice advantage. So, hopefully, we could use that to our advantage and somehow find ourselves in our first ever conference finals appearance. So, let's see what happens and get to game number one. Like I said, home ice advantage. Let's use it to our advantage. We won the first two games on the road last round. We didn't... Actually, we lost all of our road games so far. I completely forgot to mention that because in that first round, we basically won 4 road games and lost 3 home games. Or wait, no, wait. Let me see you. We lost... Yeah, we won 4 road games, lost 3 home games. Yeah, it was that way. So we need to be better on home ice as well. That's a major factor for our team to actually start winning the playoffs, because now that we're like one of the better teams in terms of the regular season that is left in the playoffs, we need to be able to find ways to win on our home ice, because that is going to definitely tell the tale if we can win a series or not. So let's see what happens, see if we can get our first win on home ice. So far, our fans are a little bit miserable in their own arena, but they are at least out there to support us on the road as well. But got to find a way to win here if we can. First period, game number 1. 2 on us. Okay, good offensive start. Zetterberg opens the scoring. Capaduca scores as well. So I did shout out the bottom 6 for not scoring a ton, and they have 2 goals in that first period, which is great. Kaprizov gets the Wild on the board. Shots are 11-9 in favor of us. Hopefully Spezza could play a little bit better here as well in this round, because like I said, he's been very inconsistent, and I don't think he's going to be worth the money he's going to be asking for once we get to the offseason. Second period, 3-1. Okay, nice little insurance marker from the captain, and Staubitz on the power play. Love to see that. Shots are 25-19, so it's been a pretty close game, I'd say, in terms of shots and goals. We're up by a pair. Can we block this one down in the third period and maybe play one of our best defensive games so far of this playoff run? Power play for the Wild. We kill it off. Nice. Power play again for the Wild. And they get a power play goal from Matt Boldy as he beats Spezza to pull them within one. That's not good. And they tie it up. Oh my goodness, Spezza. Like, see, that's what I mean with Spezza. Like, he's just very inconsistent. And this game is tied up. Come on, guys, let's answer back to that. We don't want to blow that lead that we had. And we're going to overtime in game 1. Shots are pretty close. Goals are tied because Spezza decided just to, like, not try it. Or our defense gave up a lot of shots, maybe 2. Shots are 39-35 in favor of us. 3-3 game. Who wants to be the hero in overtime? Who am I going to call upon? Who do I want to call upon? I'm going to call upon... I'm trying to think. I'm going to call on Ristolainen. Let's call on him and see if he can get an OT winner. Come on, boys. Let's win on home ice, our first ever home game in this playoff run, at least. Hey, let's go. We do win an overtime, and it's Zetterberg. All right. So the rookie with 2 goals in that game. I love to see that. That does give me more confidence when the bottom 6 actually score some goals. So a nice 4-3 victory with some unlikely goal scorers in that one. Outshooting him 40-35. We did blow a 3-1 lead, which is not great, but at least we were able to win that one. So Zetterberg from Peterson, Capaduca from Del Monte, Staubitz from Kolars, and then we had Zetterberg from Whitfield and Peterson. So, yeah, the bottom 6 did well in that game, and Zetterberg having 2 of his 3 career playoff goals in that one is a nice thing to see. Any Madley minus people? Not really. Goaltending, Spezza was okay. A 914 save percentage. After giving up those 2 goals in the third period, I think he kind of settled in a bit. Actually, he was actually pretty good for the first 2 periods. It was just that third period that was a little bit more of a lapse, but not a bad game from Spezza. That might be his best career playoff game so far up to this point. Zetterberg getting first star of the game. Kaprizov for them, and then Peterson, the third star. Love to see it when the fourth line has 2 of the 3 stars. That's great. Hopefully we could find a way to win more games like that. So that's our first win on home ice of this playoff run. Hopefully we continue to do that going forward, but that's a good sign. That's a good sign that we're now able to win games on home ice as well. Let's keep the team the same. It was a solid game for the most part. A little bit of a hiccup in that third period, but hopefully we can disregard that and have a better third period in this type of game. So game number 2, still on home ice. Can we take a 2-0 series lead headed to Minnesota? That would be very good if we could do that. First period, game number 2. 1-0 Minnesota as Marco Rossi scores on the power play. So we have been giving up a little bit of power play goals against, so maybe the penalty kill needs some work, but I'm not too sure yet. Shots are 12-10 in favor of the Wild. It's only a 1-0 game. We are still in this one. Let's just have a good second period and find a way to get on the score sheet here. Second period. Oh, baby, a 4-goal second period from this team. I was not expecting that. Staubitz starts the scoring early in that period, so the captain gets on the board. Ristolainen scores, Rick Kim scores, and then Kappaduka scores again. So Wallstedt gets pulled after a couple goals early in that second period. So our top 6 scores 3 of those goals. So that's really good to see our top 6 is also scoring, not just our fourth line. And then Kappaduka already gets his second goal of the series. So our third line is also scoring goals. So we're starting to get that really good offensive output from our entire team, which is really good to see. And that's exactly what we want. We also need good defensive play, though, too. But last game we had a 3-1 lead going into third, and we blew it. This time we have a 4-1 lead. Hopefully we're a bit safer with this type of lead. Let's see what happens if we could lock down this game in the third period and take a 2-0 series lead to Minnesota. Power play for us here in the third period. We do not score on it, but at least it wasted some time off the clock. Penalty kill. Nicely done, penalty killers. We're into the final 10 minutes, and Staubitz scores another. The captain is doing well in the series so far. Makes it a 5-1 game. Power play late for us. We don't score on it, but that's okay. And that's going to do it. Another great game, I would say, from our team. Good defensive effort and good offensive. So this is good to see that Spezza is starting to play good. Our defense is starting to play better too, because we've now given up a total of 4 goals in 2 games only, which is not too bad. Obviously, last game we could have even given up less than that, but we had a bad third period. So all in all, I've been impressed with how we've been playing against Minnesota so far up to this point. So that's a nice little statement win. We are scoring a lot of goals in this playoff run so far, so maybe that's what's going to separate us from a lot of other teams in the playoffs at the moment. But Staubitz is 6 from Norena and Doig. Then we had Ristolainen from Kollars and Kim from Ristolainen and Norena, Kappaduka from Steen and Del Monte, and Staubitz is 7th from Tulipov and Doig. Nicely done. Any minus players? Probably not really at this point, I would guess. Yeah, no minus players. Mostly everybody on the team was plus, except for the fourth line. I love to see it. And then a nice game from Spezza. Spezza's starting to actually maybe live up to that money. Who knows if he keeps up playing like that. But like I was saying with last round, we didn't have that consistency. So I am expecting Spezza to have a really bad game one of these games. Because first game was good. Second game even better. He's probably going to have a bad game in game 3 or game 4. My guess. But Staubitz gets first star. Spezza the second star. Ristolainen the third star of the game. So we have a 2-0 series lead headed to Minnesota. If we could win one game in Minnesota, we set ourselves up for a pretty damn good spot at potentially going to a conference finals. Anaheim and Seattle are currently tied at 1. Same with Buffalo and Florida. New Jersey's up 2-0 on the Philadelphia Flyers at the moment. Okay. So we're only one of 2 teams that are up 2-0 at the moment. Let's keep the team the exact same. After a game like that, I don't think we need to make any adjustments. So let's see if we could win one on the road. We are a good road team in that first round. Obviously, we have not lost a road game so far up to this point in time. Can we continue that trend? Let's see what happens. Game number 3. On the road in Minnesota. Let's get a win here, boys. At least one win in this 2 games that are in Minnesota. First period, game number 3. Minnesota opens the scoring again, just like last game. Philman on that third line. Of course, after I was saying he's a little bit weak. We only generated 3 shots in that first period, so that's not great, to see our offense has kind of dipped from scoring 5 goals last game to only having 3 shots in the first period. Yikes. At least Spezza kept us in that. So Spezza so far the MVP in this game, which is kind of surprising. But can we find a way to tie the game up in the second despite the lack of shots on goal? Like, can we generate more chances at least to maybe give us a better chance at winning this game? Second period? 1-1. Okay, we do tie it up despite the lack of shots. It's Zetterberg again, and shots are pretty even now, 19-18. So we outplayed them completely in that second period. We tied it up at 1-1 with 1:10 left in the second period. So a lot of ones involved there. Zetterberg's maybe been the best offensive player in the series other than Staubitz. Now the question is, can we find a way to get that lead? We have not had the lead yet in this game. Can we do it in the third period and potentially take a 3-0 stranglehold? Let's go, boys. Let's go. Period 3 underway. Penalty kill to start the third period. We killed it off. Nicely done. Love to see when the penalty kill actually works. And we take the lead. It's Bell of all people. Okay, that might be his first career playoff goal. I'm not too sure, but Kaprizov answers right back for the Minnesota Wild. Not ideal. Do we have another goal to go ahead here, potentially? Final few minutes. Is it going to be another overtime game? Yes, it is. Okay, so for the second time in the series, we're going to overtime. So it has been a pretty close series when you think about the overtime scenarios, but shots are even, goals are even. It's just going to come down to which goaltender lasts a little bit longer than the other. Who wants to be a hero for us in this game? Who did I shut on last time? I shouted Ristolainen. And then it ended up being Staubitz, or who was it in game 1? I can't even remember now at this point. I don't even know why my brain can't remember that, but let's go for Rick Kim. Actually, no, it was Zetterberg last time. That's who it was. Let's go with for Rick Kim, though, because Rick Kim deserves to have a goal here rather soon, right? So, who wants to be the hero for the Aliens? Who wants to be the hero? Come on, guys. Let's get that goal. I don't even care if it's Rick Kim. Let's hope that it's somebody on our team, though. We're halfway through this first overtime, still tied at 2, so both goaltenders still playing great. Minnesota has the shot advantage in this overtime for sure, though, because it was even in shots, but they're way ahead now, and we are going to be going to double overtime. I don't know if we've ever been in a double overtime scenario with this Albuquerque team, but the shots are 43-36 in favor of Minnesota, so it's been another really good game from Spezza. Wallsted's also been keeping his team in it. We need to generate more shots early into this overtime if we want to find a way to win this, because Minnesota probably has the pressure meter up, I would assume, at this point. Not too sure exactly, but who wants to be the double OT hero for us and get us this win and give us a 3-0 series lead? Let's see what happens. We know it's going to end quick, and it's going to be us. Let's go, Tulipov. A defenseman. Okay, I was not expecting it to be Tulipov, so we are getting some goals from the back end too, which is great. So this is a much, much better series, and this definitely shows this team can win games. We're getting good goaltending, we're playing good defensively, we're scoring goals. Everything's clicking right now. Final shots were 43-38 in favor of Minnesota, but we win 3-2. Yeah, this is definitely a different version of the team than it was in the first round. So Zetterberg from Norena and Dag. We had Bell from Del Monte and Steen. And the game-winning goal is Tulipov from Rick Hims. So I was pretty close on the game-winning goal. Any minus players in that game? We win another one on the road. So we have been undefeated so far in other teams' buildings. It'll be interesting to see if we could win another one. But I'm expecting Minnesota to win at least one game in the series. So Spezza the first star, Bell the second star, and Kaprizov the third star. So Spezza's had 3 straight great games here in the second round. So maybe he gets better as the season goes on, because he's bad during the regular season. First round he was okay-ish at times, and in the second round he's been fantastic. So maybe if he gets to the Stanley Cup Finals, maybe he'll just throw out 4 straight shutouts. You never know. But we're 7-3 in the playoffs and 1 win away from the conference finals. There is also a chance we could still get reverse swept, but I don't think it's going to happen. But watch, now that I said that, it's going to happen. But yeah, we got to keep the team the same. Everything's been really working well in this second round. Like, we gave up 3 goals, we gave up 1 goal, we gave up 2 goals. So only 6 goals against in 3 games. That's a 2 goals against average. We've been scoring basically 12 goals in 3 games, so we're scoring an average of 4 goals per game and only giving up half as much. So I really like the way we played in this round so far, and this is definitely showing some positive stuff for hopefully the near future as well. But let's keep the team the exact same. See if we could pull off the sweep and knock out Minnesota and get redemption on them for a few years ago. That would be amazing if we could get to this conference final somehow with this team. But here we go. First period of game number 4. 1-0 us. Good start. A short-handed goal from Del Monte. Let's go. Okay. I'll take a short-handed goal. Shots are 13-9 in favor of Minnesota. So, yeah, right now Spezza's been maybe the MVP of this round for sure. But we've also been playing just better as a team too. So maybe that's why his numbers are getting better too. And maybe that's why his numbers aren't great during the regular season, is we're just not a great team in front of him fully. So once his team fully develops into being better in front of him, maybe his numbers will go back up, because he's never had over a 900 save percentage during the regular season, which is still a huge surprise to me, considering he's an elite goaltender. But yeah, shots 13-9. We're up by 1 goal. Can we get some insurance in the second period to give us a better chance in the third? Second period. 2-2. Not a great period there from Spezza. That might be his worst period of the series. Kaprizov with 2 goals in the... Well, one was early on, one was kind of late. But we literally answered 15 seconds later from Staubitz, our captain. So he's been probably one of the best offensive players in the series, aside from Zetterberg. Shots are 20-18 in favor of Minnesota. 2-2 game going into the third. Can we find a way to get that game-winning goal and close out the Wild? We've gone to multiple overtimes in the series, so it could be completely different this series too, but our offense has been able to find those clutch goals when we needed to. So let's see what happens in period 3. See if we can find a game-winning goal and maybe a series clincher too. Power play for us. After they had a power play, we don't score on it. Took some time off the clock though. Come on, guys. Who wants to give us that lead in potentially a sweep? We've never swept the playoff round before. It would be nice if we could do it here. Final few minutes here of game 4. And we're going to our third overtime against the Minnesota Wild. So I do think Minnesota has definitely had a chance to be on the opposite side of things in the series a little bit. But obviously that one game we had definitely showed that I think we've been the better team in the series for sure. Because Minnesota's had a tough time trying to score on Spezza, which is still kind of a surprise to me. But shots are even, goals are even again. So we've had a pretty good matchup with them. I definitely respected their game quite a bit. Who wants to be the hero here to potentially send us to the conference finals? Who do I want to call upon for this overtime? I'm trying to think who I want to call upon. Let's call on Kolars. I haven't called on him in a while. And yeah, maybe he'll come through with a big goal. So let's see what happens in game 4 overtime and see if we could close out Minnesota. Come on, guys. I believe in yous. We played great up to this point. Let's keep it rolling. Let's keep it rolling. Is this going to be another double overtime game? The way it's trending, it might honestly be, which is kind of insane. No, it's not. We win in single overtime. It's Staubitz, the captain, has sent the team to the conference finals. Let's go. Our first ever sweep in franchise history. That is a team right there. That is a much better team in that second round. Complete different than the first round because, like I said, we gave up way too much goals. This time around, we did amazing. Let's friggin' go. Staubitz. Probably the best player in this round other than Spezza and all that. But huge statement victory for our team. And we're going to be going to our first ever conference finals. We're 4 wins away from a potential Stanley Cup finals. And we have not lost on the road at this point in time, which is also pretty insane. Let's freaking go. What a win. 3 overtime games. 3 different overtime heroes, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Del Monte from Peterson. Staubitz from Doig and Arena. And the game winner, Staubitz from Doig. Staubitz is almost up to 10 goals in the playoffs. He's been brilliant. And he's a pending free agent too, which is kind of scary. Because do you guys think I should overpay on him just because he's been so good? Or should I, like, try and get him for cheaper in the offseason? Like, I feel like at this point I should have already signed him to an extension, but I haven't. So Kaprizov the first star, Staubitz the second star, and Spezza the third star of the game. All right. Well, now we have some player stats to take a look at, and we do not know who we're facing yet, but it looks like it could be the Seattle Kraken. Also, New Jersey swept Philadelphia. Florida looks like they're going to knock out Buffalo in the Eastern Conference, but what a great series. That's exactly what this team needs. Hopefully, we can keep the momentum rolling. It's been good to see us score in overtime scenarios because that shows that at least this team is developing, I'd say, in the right way. So let's go to team stats here. Actually, not team stats yet because we got to see who we're facing first. But first, our player stats here for the playoffs now at this point. Bogosian still point per game, but he had no points in that second round, which is kind of surprising. Rick Kim with 10 points, Ristolainen on 9 points. We have Steen on 3 points, Peterson on 3 assists. Not bad. Plus minuses are improving, which is great, but seeing Bogosian with no points in that round, Ristolainen with probably not a lot, is kind of concerning. Left wing side of things, Del Monte on 10 points. He's been good. Only 2 goals, but 8 assists. Kolar's on 8 points. He also kind of needs to be a little bit better. So even though we've been scoring goals, I feel like we also lack a little bit of scoring depth. A little bit. Capaduca on 3 goals. He's been better. Dag on the 1 assist. Right wing side of things, Doig's been fantastic on 13 points. But look at Staubitz. Only 9 goals. Or actually, I shouldn't say only 9 goals. He has 9 goals and only 1 assist. 10 points. So he's under point per game, but he's got 9 goals, shooting 20.5% right now. So he's doing a lot of good stuff for us here in the playoffs at the moment. And then Zetterberg on those 4 goals has been very helpful for a fourth line guy. Defensive side of things, Norena on 6 points. His plus minus is now even 0. Our plus minus is definitely fixed a lot more since the first round. Tuzolino only on 5 assists. I don't think he had any points in that round either. If I go to split stat, game logs, I guess we'll go to. Yeah, he had no points in that round. That's kind of surprising. So him and Bogosian didn't do anything in that round offensively, but we still won in a convincing sweep. So that's kind of weird. Tulipov on 3 points, Bell on 2, Whitfield on 1, and Lee has nothing so far but a +4. Goaltending side of things, Spezza has a .919 save percentage now, though. And then you have Semenov on an 800 still, obviously, because he didn't play in that round. But Spezza is starting to play good. He's starting to play good. And if we look at his game logs, in that round versus Minnesota, he goes from a .914 to a .966 to a .953 to a .938. Only allowed more than 2 goals 1 time, and that was in game 1. So he's been great as of late, and that's definitely helping our team out a lot. So there is our stats. I'd say we have like decent depth scoring, but I'm still concerned with a few guys. But I really like the way our defense played in that series and our goaltending. Like, that's definitely a lot better than I was anticipating from our team. So the question now is, who are we playing in the conference finals? It looks like it's going to be Seattle, but it could be still Anaheim. So let's see if it will be the Kraken or somehow it will be the Ducks. It's going to be the Kraken. Okay. So we are playing Seattle in the conference finals. They have Gabriel Zag, who's rocking a .937 save percentage, apparently, at this point in time in the playoffs. The Kraken finished 44, 33, and 5, so they could be a cheese team, but they also could be way better than that record suggests, too, so that's going to be interesting. But first and foremost, let's take a look at what they did during the regular season compared to us. Then we'll take a look at playoff numbers. I'll probably also take a look at what we did during the regular season against them. And obviously we have to take a look at the roster too. But I do want to take a look at regular season stuff first here. So if we go to Western Conference, we were 3rd. They were 8th. So they were an 8th team, actually. I know they were 7th team, basically, in the playoffs because Chicago didn't make it. But they finished 44, 33, and 5. We saw 3.1 goals for per game to our 3.84. They allowed 2.94, so they were a better defensive team for finishing that low. 18.1% on the power play. Ours was 20.8. And their penalty kill was better. Yeah, they're a better defensive team, basically, in the regular season. What about playoffs so far? Let's see what we got in terms of comparison. So if we go to Western Conference, sort by wins here. Both of us are 8-3 at the moment. We're scoring more goals per game. We are allowing more goals per game, which is kind of surprising, but that's because of the first round. Like, we've only scored still 5 more goals than we've given up. But that is because of the first round, I think, mainly. Because that second round, we were fantastic defensively, but the Kraken have allowed only 2.18 goals per game. So they are very defensive. We are better on the power play than them so far, and they are better on the PK. So they're a better defensive team again. We're a better offensive based on that. But look at that, 6-0 on the road, which is fantastic. 2-3 on home ice, 7-3 in our last 10 games. They're 8-2. All right. Now the question is, I did want to see what we did against them during the regular season. So let me go to the calendar here and see those games that we had against them. Because I feel like we probably had at least 3 games against them, but I'm curious on what the stats were looking like in those games. So if we look here, actually I could look at, I should just look through this instead. I was going to look at the box scores for these games, but I feel like it'll add too much time to the episode. But we won 6-5 in our first meeting against them, so that was a pretty good offensive game, despite them being a good defensive team. 6-5 win there on Friday the 1st of December, 2034. And then it heads into 2035. We have, I assume, more games. Yeah, 2-1 win, so that's more of a defensive game, more into their hands a little bit, but we do win that one. So 2 games by 1 goal. So they have been close regular season games too. Do we have any other games against them during the regular season? Not that I see, unless I completely just skipped over one, but looks like we had 2 games against them and they were both very close, if I'm not mistaken. If I go to our goalie stats, I would assume Spezza probably played in both of those. Let's double check and see what his stats were like against him, just for fun. Because I could go through every single player to see what they did against Seattle, but I feel like that's just going to be too much. If we go down here, let's see though. Just go alphabetically through all these teams. Seattle. He didn't play any of the games. Actually, he did play them. It was just on the bottom for some reason. Yeah, 2-0 and 917 save percentage. So we only played the 2 games against him. We won them both. 917 save percentage, 3 goals against. Interesting. Okay. So he played both of them. All right. I could take a look at the box scores. I could do that in next episode if you guys want me to take a look at the box scores from the regular season games against Seattle. We could potentially do that. But for right now, we're just going to end it off on taking a look at the roster, because I don't know who's on their team at this stage, other than Gabriel Deg, obviously. Like, I don't know if they still have guys like, well, Bjorkstrand would be long retired. Trying to think of who else would be there still. Shane Wright's probably there, I would assume. Probably Matty Beniers. Yes, okay. Curtis Beck is on their top line. I don't know if that's a generated guy. Yeah, it's probably a generated guy. Might be a real player, who knows. But top line, Curtis Beck, Matty Beniers, Shane Wright. Very good top line. One of the better ones we've seen. Second line, Hanyu Mietinen. They also have Cameron Dixon, who's only 21 years old, was drafted 4th overall 4 years ago. And Marcus Nishushkin, who was also drafted 1st overall 2 years ago. So the Kraken haven't been a good team as of late, I guess, but they're starting to become that good of a team. Third line, Manny Doan. I feel like I've seen him in the draft too. Yeah, 7th overall by the Sharks, though. They also have Callum Ritchie and Philip Mazar. Or, yeah, I think it's pronounced Mazar. So, yeah, it's a very solid top 9. Fourth line has Drew O'Connor, Bruce Beckett. Bruce Beckett, drafted by Utah. And Nikita Alexandrov, okay. So that's an interesting forward group. I wouldn't say there's like any, like, I wouldn't call one player a superstar. I mean, Matty Beniers and Shane Wright are probably superstars at this point, but let's see, the regular season, 68 points. I mean, that's not crazy, but they have some really good depth through their lineup. 74 points from Wright. What about Beck? How does this guy simulate? 74 points. Okay, so they have probably good depth scoring, but they don't have like that one guy with a gold X factor, it seems like. And not even on defense either. Mohamed Del Rio. Top defenseman they used to get from St. Louis, I guess. They also have Jacob Bernard Docker. Hunter, I don't even remember how to pronounce this guy's name. Bruskowitz, maybe? Rasmus Sandin. Anton Olsen, and Brennan Mason. The defensive core definitely isn't as strong as Minnesota's. I think we could beat them based on what I'm seeing so far. And then Gabriel Deg, probably one of the guys that could be a difference maker in the series. 911 save percentage in the regular season, and in the playoffs, he's rocking that 937 at the moment, which is pretty insane. Like, they've been a very good defensive team, so maybe they have a good coach. Jamie Mancari is their backup goaltender, so they have 2 actually really solid goaltenders. Interesting. Mancari and Deg, huh? Okay. What about depth? Alex Vlasic is depth, Caden Bankier, and they also have Jake Bean, who's currently injured. So Jake Bean technically is normally on their defensive core, I guess. Probably instead of Mason, my guess, but he's currently injured. I don't even know if he'd play a huge factor in the series, but that's a decent loss for them, I guess. So they're definitely more of a defensively structured team than offensive, but they do have some good offensive threats as well in there. So it will be interesting to see who ends up getting to the Stanley Cup Finals. The Stanley Cup Finals would either be us in New Jersey or us in Florida, or Seattle in Florida, Seattle in New Jersey. So those are the final 4 teams in both the East and the West. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Albuquerque Aliens Draft to Glory franchise mode. So in next episode, we'll take it to the conference finals against the Seattle Kraken as we look to go to our first ever Stanley Cup finals and maybe have a chance to win a Stanley Cup. We have played much better defensively as of late, and if that continues into this round and the Cup finals, I think this team could actually maybe win a Stanley Cup this year because we've definitely shown glimpses of some very good teams. So think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.